Gin wasn't invented by the Brits, but it was certainly popularized here. And as that popularity has surged in recent years, craft distilleries and production has boomed across the world. But what about the original? We came to the UK to explore why English gin is still the classic.
I have a theory about the word classic. What does it mean? If it's been around for a while and it's still around for a while, probably it means it was good. You know, it survived. It still maintains its quality.
Gin's popularity soared in England starting in the 17th century, but true English gin really rose in quality and gained its style in the early 19th century with the invention of the continuous still. Thus, we started to see the gins we know and love today, and the most well-known was London Dry. So we started in London at Beefeater, which has been producing gin right in London since the 1860s.
You can't make an English gin not in England, but you can make a London gin anywhere in the world. So the definition of London gin is made from neutral alcohol. It's flavored so that juniper is the predominant taste. The flavoring is done in a traditional gin still, but all the flavor must come from that one distillation.
But even if London gin can be made across the world, there's a reason why people keep coming back to the originals.
I think English gins, London gin, really is a development from the original Geneva Dutch gins. They go right back to the early days of distilling in Europe 500 years ago. More simple in the form originally, pot distilled spirit, not so neutral, juniper oil added to kind of give it a flavor and disguise the impurities in those old days. London gins really developed, obviously, in London, but by adding more complex things. The first thing was neutral alcohol. Once the continuous still is invented, so you have pure alcohol. The botanical is just there for flavor. And again, with London being such an international port, so many flavors to choose from.
And while London gin is the most famous style, similarly juniper-led English gins have been produced all over the country. We made a second stop at the Plymouth Gin Distillery, a favorite of the Royal Navy from its founding in the 18th century, and we found that heritage is taken seriously beyond just London Dry.
It's historic because gin is English, really, as in the way that Scotch is Scottish. And although gin started off as Geneva in Holland, when it came back to England, it got changed into the product that we now know. So it's very much an English drink. And then because of the empire that the English had for a couple of hundred years, we took it around the world. And because we took gin around, we put it into all the countries that we sort of ruled, and people got to know the product. And that stayed since, you know, it stayed in people's consciousness. And it also coincides really with the rise of cocktails, because that's what gin is. It's for making mixed drinks.
So while gin has become synonymous with Britain across its history, is that enough to keep drinking the originals when it's now being produced the world over?
It is the classic, all the classic gins that people would consider to be classic gins comes from this country. And then from lots of other places around the world, people are trying to make a twist on classic styles of gin. But if you really want a classic gin, then they all come from the UK. If you want something a bit quirky or a bit sort of odd, then you'll find them in the market. But gins from England tend to be classic based on juniper.
You can't rely on your history. You can't rely on your provenance. It's not enough on its own. It has to still be relevant to today's drinker. And that's down to quality. People will end up drinking what they think is right and good value and everything else. It doesn't have to be a classic London gin to fit that bill. You know, some of the new gins coming out, they're going to be around for a while, I'm sure. But you need to be versatile, you need to be good, you need to be true to yourself. Heritage is only part of that, and hopefully the classics will still be classically carrying on.